Good morning. Please welcome to the stage the chair of the USC Board of Trustees, Suzanne Nora Johnson.
Welcome, good morning. Thank you all for being here today at 8 a.m. on Monday morning. We so appreciate it. The State of the University, as you know, is an annual presentation, and it's really the university's opportunity to review where we are as a university and where we're going to be collectively in the future. It's where our leadership can demonstrate openness and collaboration, which we view as two of the most important values of the Trojan family. It's important that our faculty, our staff, and our students have the chance to come together to better understand the opportunities and the challenges facing USC and all of higher ed right now. But you all are the backbone of our university, and I think this is the first time in a long time our first State of the Union is to the Academic Medical Center. So you guys are our beta test, so you'll tell us what we missed at the end. But the members of the academic medical community really, you exemplify in the best ways our three missions: education, research, and service. No one does it better than the people in this room. And you're what makes USC distinctive. The state of the university is really a reflection of our work and a call to action to come together. And today it's especially significant. Last week, our Board of Trustees fulfilled one of its most important responsibilities, which was hiring our next president. It was a year-long process that literally started in February of last year when we announced the transition of our former president and appointing Byung-Soo Kim to be our interim. It was a year-long process that many of the people here participated in. I really do want to call out 4 of our members of our search committee actually were from clinical faculty here. And I want to thank Susan Gurley, Mark Humayun, Rima Jubran, and David Pang. And if you'll just all kind of join me in thanking them. They represented about half, a little bit more than half of the faculty representatives on the committee, and they really did an extraordinary job of really informing all the trustees and the other faculty about the important issues facing the medical center. We had 4 months of consultations with the USC community, and many of you maybe met Amy Ross and Steve Keck, who actually came here personally to interview people at the medical center to get their views on the search. We had 8,000 people respond to the search survey, which our outside headhunter said they have never, ever seen any university come close to the amount of voice in the process and people who were interested. It was really overwhelming, the response, and it showed us the level of dedication, purpose, and care that has distinguished us since our founding almost 150 years ago. It also demonstrated that our university is not just one leader, it's not one person, it's not one chair, it's not one president. This is a we culture, not a me culture, and we want to continue to have it that way. Every group in the process had different perspectives, but it informed and helped others understand what was important in the university. Our new president understands those different perspectives, and last week we unanimously voted to appoint Byung-Soo Kim as USC's 13th president. And you all should know this was after a very successful external outreach. Many of my peers at other universities had warned me and said, "You don't understand, no one wants to be university president." That wasn't true. Some of the best people in the sector were interested, and our 4 finalists, I think you'll see many of them either as current presidents or future presidents. It was an extraordinary group of talent that was interested in USC. But Byung was our choice. And you all recognize that Byung knows USC in a very unique way. He knows that we can do things better and differently. And he also knows that we should be informed by our past. There were things in the past that were fabulous, but there's things that we need to grow. He also knows that other institutions are doing phenomenal things, but he knows we need to do it a USC way. Many other universities have more resources, bigger staffs, larger endowments, but we have all of you. And we think that USC has all the tools to win. And there's a USC athlete, we talked to the deans about this when we announced Byung. There's a USC winter athlete, there's only one, and his name is Karsten Vissering. He was a championship swimmer on the USC team when he was here. He was a 2020 grad. He's now at the Winter Olympics in the two-man US bobsled team. And that really gives you an example of our unique ability to have a leader pivot and still compete at a championship level. And we think in Byung, we have an all-star and a champion who is going to pivot from his prior life to our president. He understands also that we can only win if we move forward together. He's a leader that I think of all the leaders we've had in many years probably understands the medical center as well as anyone. As you all know, he has spent countless hours over here getting to know you all. He was an important part of Steve's leadership team in talking to the county. And again, he's someone who we believe will lead us forward. So we will only succeed going forward if we do this together and united. So with that, please welcome Byung-Soo Kim, our next president.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. I cannot thank you enough, not just for how you handled the process, but also for your exemplary leadership, which is felt throughout the entire USC community. To David Payne, Susan Gurley, Mark Umayan, Rima, let me just say this is all your fault. So, everyone, don't forget that. Leadership is a privilege, and I could not be more humbled to stand before you today with the responsibility of leading this incredible institution, which I love so much and all of us love so much. I'm looking out right now, and I'm seeing so many people who I respect so deeply and so profoundly. I've seen you in action. I've been in the trenches with you, and I could not be more excited about rolling up the sleeves and getting to work, not just over the next month, but over the next number of years. It's just a humbling responsibility, and I couldn't be more excited about it. As Suzanne mentioned, I've been spending a lot of time on this campus, and the reason I've been spending so much time here is because what you do here, the work that happens, is so critical and fundamental to USC's academic mission. The work that you are doing is important not just to USC, it's important to the entire world. And sometimes we forget what a privilege it is to do that kind of work. And so I wanted to just kind of give a little of overview. I'm going to leave out so many people, so many different projects, so much work, but just to give you a little smattering of some of the incredible work that's been going on today, last week, over the last few weeks, just to kind of give you a sense of what the impact is. Let's start with the clinical operations, led by Rod Hanners and his team. We have a tremendous impact within our community. 1 million patient encounters every single year at 100 different sites throughout the region. That's a lot, but we're still relatively small compared to Cedars, UCLA, and other health systems in our region. But there's something that distinguishes us, and that's our case mix index. On average, for a trauma university healthcare system like ours, the average might be somewhere around 2.0. Ours is 3.8, which puts us at the very top of handling the most complex cases in the nation. And that is such an incredible testament to the expertise and the reputation and the skills of so many of the folks who are in this room and who are listening. The fact that people come to us for the most complex cases in the country is an incredible vote of confidence in what we provide and offer. I was meeting with someone, a grateful patient, a few weeks ago, and he was telling me about his mother who had pancreatic cancer, and she needed a Whipple procedure. And so they went around to some of the areas, some of the systems I may have just mentioned, and they all said, no, this is too difficult. We can't do this. They came to Keck Medicine of USC, and the response was instantaneous. Sure, of course. And as a result, his mother was able to live a number of additional years that were so incredibly meaningful to not just her, but her family and her son. And that's what you get when you deal with the most complex cases. Instead of seeing the challenges and the difficulties, instead you see the possibility, and you have that kind of positivity that is felt by our patients and our community every single day. What makes me so proud about our health system is not just the impact it has, not just the case complexity, but the amazing quality that we're able to uphold at the same time. These are just some of the accolades here. We've been receiving Keck Hospital, I think, CMS 5-star rating for the last several years. We're at the top of the Vizient charts. It's just absolutely incredible what the quality is. And sometimes I don't think that we pay enough attention to how much quality we put into our care and how recognized it is. What's been really exciting this last year is being able to expand our footprint. We've done that most recently in Pasadena with the Pasadena Medical Office building. Here is a list of some of the specialties that we're now going to be able to offer. And it's really exciting because when you combine these specialties and capabilities with our operations just across the street at the Huntington Pavilion, you now have an incredibly comprehensive suite of services that we can provide to our patients in this area. And what's even more exciting is we're able to attract more talent. We are in a talent business, and the fact that we're able to bring more physicians into our system who are super talented and committed to their patients is a wonderful, wonderful development. One of the things that patients benefit from is not simply the care that we provide, the quality that we provide, but the fact that we are innovating and doing things that no other health system in the entire world is doing. One recent example is the first in-human bladder transplant conducted by Indy Gill and a team of doctors, including doctors at UCLA. The surgery took 8 hours. No one thought or knew whether it would succeed. And it actually has exceeded beyond expectations. The patient is still responding very well and is actually able to exercise much more control over his bladder than anyone ever expected. And it's just an example of something that no one would have thought was possible. And now that we've done it here, it has the prospect of becoming a standard of care years out. The research that we do at this incredible campus is also astounding. It takes place in the clinics and the hospitals, but it's also measurable in terms of the NIH funding and other sponsored research funding that we receive. And you can see on this little eye chart, sorry for the font, that Keck at the very bottom, compared to all the other schools within USC, you can see the amount of expenditures that we receive for research. And you can see a number of the other health sciences campuses, health sciences schools represented here. Yet another reason how and why the work that happens on this campus is so fundamental to the research mission that we want to have. I'm going to just give a few examples of some of the impact. Just a few days ago, we announced that we had, through a team effort, figured out some potential treatments for inflammation that's linked with Alzheimer's. And what's really exciting about this development is that it took a team of researchers to get it done. Hussein Yassin is the one who kind of architected this research project and identified the inflammation enzyme. Then we had Siva Katrich at Dornsife, who scanned over 1 billion different molecules to see what might be effective. And then Stan Louie at the Mann School of Pharmacy, he's the one who actually then developed the compounding that was able to treat and treat this condition in animals. And so that's incredibly promising. We also have not represented here, but a recent study just a few days ago again involving Parkinson's. And this is research that was done by one of our stem cell researchers, Brian Lee, who's a neurosurgeon. He's probably in the OR right now. And he is basically conducting a clinical trial that is targeting Parkinson's or by creating a kind of a writable stem cell, implanting it, and trying to encourage other cells to grow the ability again to produce dopamine. Parkinson's right now has no cure. This clinical study has the potential to actually develop a cure to Parkinson's, and it's happening right here on this campus. The research is amazing, but what's also amazing is we need researchers to do it. And just a little shout out to the Leonard Davis School. I didn't see Hasi Cohen this morning for starting this last fall a Master of Science in Aging Biology to develop more researchers with the ability to use big data skills and also combine that with biological understanding to do more research into the aging process. A few weeks ago, I was privileged to interview the inimitable Eileen Crimmins, one of the world's foremost experts on aging populations. And maybe you can check it out on Trojan Talks. But what's so fascinating about Professor Crimmins and her work is that she's now moving both from a population standpoint to looking at how aging happens at a biological level and the amount of development and discovery that's taking place in terms of biological aging, a lot of it being led by Professor Crimmins, is really astounding and promises to make a huge difference across so many dimensions as our society gets older. Moving on to the Austro Dentistry School, we have Dean Jai here. I love this story because it shows the power of the Trojan family and the mighty Friends of Dentistry. This is the dental clinic that has been in operation for 27 years, providing dental services to underserviced populations. And this trailer was absolutely at the end of its shelf life. But this mighty little mobile clinic is able to basically provide services to 1,000 patients a year. And so Austro began a fundraising campaign that would basically get 1,000 donors to contribute funds in order to create and build a new trailer. And they succeeded. And this new mobile dental clinic is going to go into operation later this year. Meanwhile, at the Chan School, or the Chan Division of Occupational Therapy, I don't know if I saw Grace Baranek here, we are using AI to analyze the social determinants of health with respect to mental illness in autism, children with autism and young adults. Headed up by Amber Engel, this is an amazing opportunity to use the latest AI tools in order to actually move the dial with respect to something that a lot of people are very concerned about. And let me just end with this because my wife Bonnie and I just got a dog before the holidays. On CBS News, you may have seen a little piece about the Homeless Policy Research Institute at the Suzanne Dvorak Peck School of Social Work. And a researcher there named Richard Wienmeister, who helps lead the Policy Institute, he's basically doing a study to show how shelters that allow individuals experiencing homeless to come with their pets have much better outcomes, and those individuals are better able to transition into permanent housing. Just another example of not just the research that we do on this campus, but the way that we're bringing that research to impact and connect with the community and the community's needs. Here are some other impacts. Again, so many different partnerships with the community, so many different community members that we are engaging with through our health education outreach, the street medicine program, which all of you are familiar with. It's no surprise that last year, in the fall, Keck School of Medicine received the AAMC Spencer Foreman Award for Outstanding Community Engagement. And Carolyn, I'm just about to talk about you now. I am so proud of KSOM under your leadership, Dean Meltzer, for the work that led to this incredible recognition. And again, this reflects not just your leadership, but the work of this entire team of people that is so focused not just on research, not just on education, but making it meaningful, changing people's lives out in the community where we work. Now, the hard lesson that we have learned over the last several years is, I'm going to borrow from Rod Hanner's, no margin, no mission. We've really had to focus on strengthening our financial position so that we can continue to have the impact that we want to have and extend that impact even further. I'll talk in a minute about what we went through this last semester, but in a way, this community has been going through a difficult period of financial adjustment and change for several years, going back at least to the renegotiation of the contract with LA General. I want to really, really extend my admiration to Dr. Steve Shapiro for his leadership in recognizing a few different things that may seem contradictory, but are not. That this relationship that we have with LA General and with the county is so important. It's important historically, it's important in terms of community impact, it's important for the patients and the families who come to LA General, and at the same time, we needed to make that relationship more sustainable and frankly more fair. And thanks to Steve's leadership and incredible work by Dr. David Payne, we were able to come up with a new contract that is frankly working better than it's ever have. And I want to also extend my thanks and my gratitude and my respect to Dr. Brad Spellberg at LA General for all of the work that he does as a public servant, and we're very much looking forward to strengthening that relationship with LA General. Of course, this last semester has been extremely difficult as well. Coming on the heels of the LA General renegotiation, to have to then go through layoffs was extremely painful across the entire university. And I know that every single person in this room was impacted. And I want to share with you that the difficult decisions and the really difficult work that we all had to do together, it really has put the university and the health system in a much better, much more sustainable position. These are a couple charts, and again, it's a little bit hard to read, but the top line represents the university's cash position, reserves. And the bottom line represents our operating margin over the last several years. The 1.8, which is the high point here, is anomalous. It represents reserves that we are building in connection with the Tyndall settlement. But you can see the direction of those dwindling cash reserves if there wasn't an intervention. And you can similarly see the operating margin deteriorating to the point where we were having structural deficits in the order of 200 plus millions of dollars. It was not sustainable. And as a result of the extremely difficult and painful work that we all did last semester, we are now coming back up. And at an enterprise level, our goal was to go from a negative $230 million budget deficit, structural, to simply a balanced budget by the end of this year. We're now on track to be generating somewhere in the order of $30 million in surplus, in margin. That's great. It's still only halfway through the year. Things can change. And really, that margin should be even healthier in order for us to continue reinvesting in the academic mission. But we'll take this as an incredible, incredible achievement that I give all of you the credit for. This needed to be done, and now that we have turned it around, we need to continue being disciplined, but we are going in the right track. Not only that, but our research expenditures have been holding steady. I'm not going to say there hasn't been volatility and decreases in federal-sponsored research, but overall, all of you have done exactly what we asked, which is that you've continued to submit applications, you've continued to go for it. And this reflects all of that work. It's still going to be hand-to-hand combat in getting these grants, but we got to stay at it. Congress just finished their appropriations for NSF, for NIH, and it's better than we expected for this coming year in terms of overall agency funding, in terms of indirect cost reimbursement. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. In terms of advancement, Scott Rabinold is here, and his team with the health system have really been trying to stay as busy as possible, keeping me quite busy over the last 7 months. And we're on track to have one of, if not our best fundraising year ever, which is, and again, extraordinary testament to you, Scott, and not just your team, but the incredible work that we were just talking about in terms of community impact, in terms of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and the blindness work that Mark Humayun is a world leader at. So this is very good news. This shows how much we're trending favorably at this point of the year. And for the health sciences, I believe that we're $100 million above where we were last year. And you can just see here the impact of philanthropy on the kind of research that is so important, not just to us as a university, but to the world. Research in urology, Alzheimer's, pulmonary research, longevity research, the business of healthcare, and so much more to come that's in the pipeline still. At the same time, our endowment, which always tries to take a long-term view of managing the university's money, it has been performing well. And I want to give credit to our incredible Chief Investment Officer, Amy Diamond, whose name you may not know, but she and her team are working every single day to prudently grow our endowment so that it can support our academic mission. And you can see the amazing growth in the endowment going up almost $2 billion over the last several years. As a result of all of this incredible work that's taking place across the university, newsflash, we are going to have a merit pool this coming year for FY27. I'm shocked that's the first applause that I've gotten, so. As a result of the situation that we were in, you all know that we put in place a travel policy as well. That travel policy is something that we reevaluate all the time, and we're going to make a tweak to it based on your feedback. And that tweak is going to be for travel that is explicitly authorized by a grant, by a sponsor, by a gift. It will be now exempt from the interim travel policy. And I hope that makes your lives a little bit better and easier going forward. At the same time that we've made so much progress as a university, there are still challenges ahead. This is a slide that I borrowed, Rod, from the recent health system board meeting. And it just goes to show you that just looking at the health system, we need commercial payers to make up for the low reimbursement rates that we get from government payers. That's just a fact. And getting those commercial payers, of course, is very challenging. And especially so in this very, very competitive LA marketplace. And so I've come up with an acronym, and I just want to say, in defense of myself, I am well known for coming up with the very worst sounding acronyms of any university leader in the country. So I'm going to pronounce this PICKOFF. Okay. David Peng, this is where I really need you, my friend. A pickoff, for those of you who are not baseball fanatics like Dr. Peng, know that this is when the pitcher basically tries to get a base runner out when the base runner's strayed too far from the plate. Requires a lot of agility, requires a lot of teamwork. Okay, I'll just forget about the analogy. But pickoff is the way that we're going to move forward. Now, let me make it very clear. This is not a strategy. This is not a plan. That's something that I'm going to be developing with the leadership team based on input from all of you. So this is not that. But pickoff is where I think right now that we're going to need to emphasize in order to move forward. And it stands for partnership, innovation, collaboration, operational excellence, and focus. Let's talk a little bit about, before we get there, let's start with operational excellence. Operational excellence is just table stakes. It is not sexy, it's not what most people would consider fun work, but it's absolutely, well, okay, maybe there are a few exceptions in Greg here, but it's absolutely something that we can and must focus on. And it's something that I'm committed to focusing on with my leadership team. We may not have all of the resources of another academic medical center. We may have challenges being where we are in the LA marketplace. There are things that are outside our control that impact the environment that we work in. But there's no reason why every single one of us in this room can't commit and make progress towards being the place that is the most operationally excellent of any academic medical center. And it's tough. And it's a low bar because I don't think any of them are doing that well. But what I have challenged the leadership team on is let's identify the pain points, the areas of tension, the friction between the university and the health system, between the health system and the health sciences schools. Let's come together, identify those pain points, and figure out if there's a better way we can run this place so that we are more operationally efficient, so that we're getting more done, so that we're less frustrated, and so that we can focus more of our energy, time, and resources directly on the things that we are really, really excited about: the education, the research, the community impact. So this is going to be ongoing work, and it's work that is, again, really, really important in terms of providing a starting point. Let me be very clear. When I say operational excellence, I'm also not using code language for additional layoffs. That's not what I'm trying to signal. Rather, what my challenge to you all is with our existing workforce count and resources, how do we make how can we all be more effective and impactful at what we're doing? Next, I want to talk about collaboration. So this is from a recent Stevens Center announcement, the launch of a new center for stem cell engineering, because stem cells are not just a biological process, but they're an engineering problem. And what we're doing is actually bringing together researchers in the biomedical department, engineering department, in particular Megan McCain, and we're combining her work and lab and co-locating it with folks here at Caisson, in particular Chuck Murray. And they're going to be joined by other researchers. There will be 5 labs on the same floor, sharing resources, sharing 3D printing capabilities. And as a result of this kind of collaboration, we are going to be positioned to truly extend the impact of our research work. Right now, Professor McCain's lab is actually at UPC, so she's going to be moving over here. And I'm so excited about what they're going to be doing. But that's the kind of collaborative mentality that we want to have. It happens already on an individual researcher level, but we need to find opportunities to encourage this kind of collaboration at the institute level, at the center level, and across the entire university. And I want to commend Dr. Puri, who's here in the audience, for really kind of helping architect these kinds of collaborative efforts. Thank you, Ish. Partnership. There was a time when we may have thought, you know what, we can just do it all on our own. And as you all know, that's just not the fastest way you can make progress. And I'm so grateful, again, to Dr. Shapiro, to Dr. Pang, to Sean Sheffield, for helping drive a specialty partner of choice approach, which, for whatever reasons, has not been deployed at any other medical centers at the kind of scale we're trying to do it at. With Adventist Health, we're doing it with radiology and trying to grow that. With Kaiser Permanente, we're doing it with cardio. And with all of these partners, we have the opportunity to really grow our relationships and do the kinds of work that it doesn't make sense for them to do, but because of our renowned care, because of our facility dealing with the most complex cases, it's relatively easy for us. So really excited about this work. And there's so many other partnership opportunities. There are partnership opportunities within the university. There are partnership opportunities with the community that we're working in. I'm not just talking about the dental clinic and street medicine, but Sam Garrison, the head of university relations, has really kind of rebooted a community engagement effort so that we are back convening community leaders around this campus to figure out how do we bring health education, medical education to the surrounding community? How can we use the research that we're doing across the health sciences campus to benefit those communities? And the partnerships that we can think about are not just local. but they can span across the globe. A few months ago, I was privileged to travel to India with Dr. Aman Mahajan, who's sitting in the front row, who is working closely with Steve to develop a leading innovation strategy for the health sciences campus and system. And Aman, Dr. Gill, and I, we were at Reliance Foundation Hospital, one of the most innovative hospital systems in India, a system that can look to us for all of our expertise in engineering and computer science to medical research and innovation. But we can also learn from them because they're basically building hospitals with innovation, the most advanced innovation baked into the very infrastructure of the hospital. So really excited about that and excited about all of the other innovative partnerships that Dr. Mahajan and Dr. Shapiro are going to be developing over the next, I'm not even going to say years, I'm going to say next few weeks and months. It's very exciting. One other form of partnership is partnership with our local business community and with large companies in the private sector. I'm talking about collaborations with Lilly, with Amgen, with health care companies that are innovating in all sorts of different ways, in genomics, in patient data. And I'm really glad that Andy Wilson, who is in charge of business development under Steve Shapiro, who's also in the front row, is helping lead that work. And again, we'll have some panels in the next semester to kind of describe some of that work and some of the incredible opportunities that Andy is developing for the health system and for the entire university. So thank you very much, Andy. Oh, second row. I want to start to wrap it up by asking the question, why? There's all these opportunities that I just described, the pick-off levers that I just described. Oh, and there's one that I didn't talk about, but I'll talk about in a moment. Focus, that's very important. But why? Why is it worth it? And I want to suggest to you the answer that I give to myself every single day when I wake up. My job is to advance USC and the health system and extend our impact, reach our potential, and enable all of you to do the incredible work that you do. But the why question is not, in my perspective, not just about advancing USC past other health systems or universities. The why has to do with the fact that this is the most exciting and promising time in medicine and the health sciences ever in the history of humankind. Thanks to developments in genomics, thanks to technological developments, thanks to AI, and combining all of these developments together, we are now positioned as a research community to, instead of just treating diseases, figuring out how to proactively prevent them from occurring in the first place. It is truly, as Dr. Shapiro talks about, a golden age of medicine. And so the why for me is, what are the opportunities for USC to lead the world in terms of curing Parkinson's, curing Alzheimer's, curing blindness, curing all of the diseases that afflict us as a society, figuring out how to deal with our mental health challenge, figuring out how to deal with our aging population. That is the why to me, because I believe that USC is as well positioned as any university and academic medical center to actually solve those problems. Imagine that. Imagine if we can do that. That is incredibly motivating to me, and I hope it's motivating to you. And if we're able to do that, believe me, all the accolades, they will come naturally. But that's the why. And that's the incredible opportunity that we have at this particular moment in not just our university's history, but in human history. And it's going to require, finally, pick off, focus. It's going to require focus. It's going to require focusing on where do we have strengths. It's going to require making hard decisions that based on the fact that we can't do everything. And you know what? No university can. The universities that are going to be able to leap ahead are the ones who are going to be able to focus on their assets, their advantages, and focusing on their people. Because ultimately, as I said earlier, this is a talent business. And if we do all of the things that I've described, pick off maintaining the discipline around our financial planning and making sure that we are strategically focusing, making the hard decisions so that we can truly excel in the areas that we should be owning as an enterprise, then there's no question in my mind that we can have the kind of impact that not just USC needs, the world needs. I want to just end with a few reflections on the last 7 months, and you can take the slides down. I've learned a lot over the last 7 months about the USC community. I've learned, number one, that when you share information, when you're open, when you're transparent, the community really, really responds. Thank you, Eric Brink, for producing last week our annual financial report. That's going to be a way of not just providing information, but to ensuring that the administration is accountable to the community for the financial health of the enterprise. I've learned also that the community not just responds well, but they have great ideas and they want to offer those ideas to help advance the university. It's been incredible over the last 7 months, learning, reading about all of these ideas, getting your input throughout the layoff process, and trying to do that process as well as possible. And the third thing I've learned about this community is that when we come together, there's nothing that this community cannot do. What we were able to do in terms of that chart that you saw was truly extraordinary. And I want you to know, I hope it's okay if I share this with this audience, Suzanne, the board could not be more impressed and grateful for the work that this community did to make the hard decisions, take them on, to focus, to deal with operational excellence, and get it behind us. I want to end with where I started. Privilege, leadership is a tremendous privilege, and it's a trust that I owe to every single person in this room. And I want to make a few commitments to you in that vein. Number one, every single thing we do, it has to start with ethics and integrity. That's a starting point. I don't need to share this with the people in this room, but that is an absolute starting point. It's not to say that the answer is always clear, but that's always got to be the starting orientation when you wake up, when I wake up, when I go to bed, doing the right thing. It's that simple, and you know that as well as I do. Number two, my commitment is to listen to all of you. Now, I say that not just as a strategy, a tactic, not just because it sounds good. I'm saying that because I need your help. I have my ideas, but I know that when we come together as a community, those ideas are going to get better and better. And so in order to do things the best possible way, in order to focus on the right strategic opportunities, I need to listen, and I'm going to listen, and that's my commitment to you. And the third and last thing that I'll say is this job that I hold, and I have the privilege of holding, it's not about me. It's about you. It's about you and the mission of this university and academic medical center, It's about the impact that we can have long-term when we do all of the things that we've been talking about. My commitment is to always, always, always put the long-term best interest of the university before anything else, including myself. Thank you so much for the privilege of standing here today. I am so grateful for every single thing that every single one of you does to support this incredible place. I am so excited about rolling up the sleeves and getting to work with all of you. Thank you. All right, questions. Give me that input, that feedback. I'm listening. So there are microphones in the front here, and there's also an ability for people who are online to ask any questions. And thank you again for being here. Who wants to be first? I'll even take a softball. Chuck, you want to come up? I didn't even see you. Chuck Murray, the chair of Stem Cell Biology and Regenerative Medicine. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate that. So I want to take off on your point about ethics. And you had to go through an ethical quandary in responding to the administration in the, I forget the word, is it the compact that they were looking to offer the USC? And I'd like to know a little bit about how you wrestled with the concept of, how do we draw a line? Here's what we don't cross. Here are the things that have to stay immutable in our mission. And what is it that it's not, we don't charge machine guns, that old analogy. And so, what are the things that are where we can bend? And because I thought you came up with a wise letter in the end, but tell me about what went on while you were making it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chuck. So the first thing that I did when I received that letter is I made a important decision. And the decision I made was that I wasn't just going to make a decision immediately before I listened to the community. And so I actually went through a process. There was an academic senate meeting. I consulted with various faculty groups. And I really tried to listen. And at the end of the day, Chuck, what I determined, or the lens that I used to make the decision was exactly what I was just talking about. What is the right decision, not just for the moment, but for the long-term mission of USC and the health system? There were things, as you know, in the compact that we all would agree with in this room. And there are things that we didn't agree with. But ultimately, it was a decision that was grounded in long-term mission, in particular, institutional autonomy, in particular, academic freedom, and the ability for us to chart our own path as a private university. And to be honest, when I sent that response back, I didn't know, and I don't think anyone knew, how everything was going to play out. But I'm hopeful that history will judge that we did the right thing based on our mission and our long-term values. So thank you for that question. Yes. Christina.
Hi, thank you so much. This is really exciting. And I love the bathtub. Rod, I guess it was your bathtub. And I was thinking too, so moving forward now, looking at the things that we can add to the green stuff coming into the bathtub, because the red is always going to be depleting from that. But the clinical trials, our partnerships that you've mentioned, and so I know we've been talking about it a bit, and I was wondering what your vision is, especially for our faculty. How do we get plugged into that? How do we really excel in that? And so what's your vision for bringing our faculty in with that?
Amazing. Thank you,
Thank you.
Christina. Thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about the bathtub. Uh, so that's just kind of the fundamental economics of healthcare right now. And we've got to, going back to Pickoff, we've got to be operationally excellent. We got to be thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead of the competition in terms of our strategy, in terms of moving ahead, in just getting the volume, getting the payer mix, and all of the things that we need to focus on. And I think there are so many exciting opportunities that Dr. Shapiro, Dr. Mahajan, and we would welcome input, Andy Wilson, are thinking about in terms of adding additional revenue streams based on innovation. Dr. Gill likes to say, innovation is our mantra within urology. Well, sorry, Dr. Gill, but I think I'm going to steal that from you and say, innovation has to be the mantra of all of us. I just don't think, particularly in the LA marketplace, just being operational excellent is enough. That's why we need the partnerships. That's why we need the innovation. There are some things that we're going to be announcing, I think, shortly with respect to genomic partnerships, with respect to potential partnerships using Cerner and the owner of Cerner that I'm really excited about. There's a lot of external interest as well in supporting USC in doing more innovation. And again, it comes back in my mind to focus. If we wanted just to be another hospital system, okay, we could do that. But is that really taking full advantage of the assets that we have? Is that taking advantage of the incredible expertise that we have in biomedical engineering? Is that taking advantage of Siva Katridge's work, in terms of drug development and discovery? Is that taking advantage of all of the work that we're doing across the health sciences schools, from pharmacy to gerontology to occupational therapy, so to dentistry? So that's the opportunity, Christine. I think it's to think about, where can we truly excel? What can we do by bringing together all of these assets in a way that no one else can? And I actually think, and I'm really excited about the opportunities. And so stay tuned. I'm sorry this is a little bit of a cliffhanger, but Dr. Mahajan, I think you heard what we need to get done. And Steve, thank you so much for your leadership as well. Please.
Thank you very much, and congratulations. I'm Julie Tilson from the Division of Biokinesiology and Physical Therapy. I want to hear, you talked when we went through that very difficult period last semester about our focus on the academic mission, and that our primary goal here is to educate students. And I'm wondering what message you have for our professional health sciences students, what you imagine coming in the future. There's a lot of challenges right now in this space, but just kind of what is your dream for their experience as part of our community?
I love that question. Thank you. By the way, do we have any students in the room? Oh my gosh, were they not allowed? Okay. All right, well, now I can really tell you what I think. No, just kidding. It is so fundamental to our mission. It's, when you look at our mission statement. And I'd say a couple things. And again, this is just part of what I try to do, which is just to be really candid. I really am worried. I'm really worried about the future of attracting individuals who want to become future researchers. I worry about the message that is going out right now to some of those students who love science, who are math and science nerds, and they just want to be researchers and change the world. It's a little bit of a mixed signal right now. So I worry about that. I worry a lot about our graduate students. I worry about our postdocs. Now, at the same time, the demand for a USC education is very, very strong. And I think that part of the reason for that strength is not just because people want to be in Los Angeles, but I truly feel that this is a place that innovates not just with respect to the lab, but also in the classroom. I mentioned the new program by the School of Gerontology and Aging Biology, and that's just one small example of all of the innovation that's happening across the curriculum. And I know from firsthand experience how incredibly dedicated the teachers and professors at USC are. I know that sometimes we make it difficult for you to find the time to do the wonderfully rewarding work of teaching, but I know that all of you somehow figure out a way to go the extra mile and make sure that you're training and educating and passing on knowledge as just a fundamental duty of what we do as part of our work at Academic Medical Center. So I really think that the key is going to be in relevance. It's going to be continuing to innovate our educational programming, leaning into teaching, and making sure that we're always thinking about that question that I was ending with, the question of why. Why does it matter? Why should you be studying for 4 years in medical school? Why should you be, slaving away in this lab, with a pipette? There's a reason. There's a really powerful reason, and the reason is that you can be part of something at a particular point in history that I think is going to be very, very, very special. So, oh my goodness, His Eminence.
First, I just wanted to say we are all excited and fired up that you are our leader. I just wanted to say that. You talked about innovation. And in this era of AI, innovation is obviously key, but so is speed. You, myself, Aman, we were in India recently talking with the main man over there who made a pretty impactful comment to us, which is that in this day and age, the prior paradigms of research are not timelines of research are not necessarily going to hold. And he made the comment that today, research must drive revenue. And that stuck with me. Research must drive revenue. And he also said the timeline is 120 days, which I think is crazy. So just wanted to get your thoughts about, this is clearly, USC is the hotbed of innovation, and more so going forward. We are competing with the private industry that moves very fast and have incredible resources. So my question is, could you just talk a little bit about how we are going to keep pace as far as speed of moving forward?
There's a trustee who talks about how if we're not running, we're falling behind. And I sometimes worry, going back to operational excellence, that sometimes we get in our own way. We have processes that are not designed for speed. And of course, we need to balance that with safety and of course all of those compliance, and that's fundamental. But we need to all leave here with a sense of urgency, because this window of opportunity for us to lead and develop solutions that the world needs and is counting on USC to deliver. That window is not going to stay open if we are not thinking, just like I was talking about with the health system, many steps ahead. And let me say one other thing, Dr. Gill. Sometimes people, I think, are worried about innovating or experimenting because it may fail. And what I want to say very clearly is failure when you're running fast is a good thing. It's a good thing. That means that we are reaching. That means that we're going really quickly. Let's not be afraid of failure. Let's make sure that we're in the race. And I think that one of the things, it's really what I talked about, Dr. Gill, it's making sure that we are partnering, and not just navel-gazing, but partnering with the companies, with the countries, with the other systems that are really innovating as quickly. Every single day, there's a new health system innovation company that's popping up, right? And it's hard to kind of know which ones are real and which ones aren't. But we got to be really getting outside our bubble. And I think that when we do that, we'll see, oh my goodness, we thought we were really ahead in this area, and in fact, we're a little bit behind. And then that's going to then kind of stir us up to step up the game. That's some of the experience that I've had over the last several months, where, you know, I've kind of been thinking about innovation and had a particular idea, and then I learned that another university has already been working on it. So, but that's not a reason not to try. That just means we need to run faster. So, Dr. Gill, really excited about the gift, the largest gift in history for a urology department that you're going to be using in part to not only innovate within the urology department, but also provide an example of innovation that can extend well beyond urology. So really excited about working with you too.
Thank you, and congratulations again.
Hey, Adam. Were you going to talk about addiction?
No, but everything is addiction. It all boils down to that. But no, just a little bit more broadly. So I like the pick-off analogy. So pick-off, you have focus, and then you have operational excellence. And then you talked about these great stories about biomedical engineering and stem cell, leveraging what this university has to offer, which is sometimes is challenging. We're 8 miles apart, the two campuses. But how do you identify what those areas are that we can invest in? And how do you facilitate cross-school collaborations so that way we can realize that?
Yeah. So, great question. And thank you for all the leading work that you do, Adam. We're all grateful. So, there is a little bit of risk when you really kind of focus in a particular area. So it requires analysis, it requires consultation, getting a lot of feedback, and it requires, even more than that, I would think it requires an objective perspective on where we are good and where we can be excellent and where we don't have a pathway to excellence. It goes back to that focus, and what I would add to that is it requires that objective view. Because it's really easy, I have to say it's really easy to believe, oh, we are the best in X. Why? Because we believe we're the best in X. And it turns out that we're not. And so part of what is required in focus is being honest with ourselves as an institution. I have an idea right now of where we can lead. I mean, I'm looking in this room at some of the people who are advancing work, research, Mark Humayun, yourself, Chuck, you know, and now I'm going to run the serious error of leaving people out, so I'm going to stop. But those are areas where I think we are confident we are very close to making some major breakthroughs. And there are more across the entire university, right? There are opportunities in athletics. There are opportunities in commercial space exploration. The drug discovery one with Dr. Katrich and others, to me and Stan Louie, that's a great example because, again, it's bringing together assets that no other university has. Now, to your other question of how do we make this happen, I do think that it happens organically among researchers. You know that, Adam. Others know that. Just picking up a phone or sending an email, and it happens organically. But I think that there's a huge opportunity for us to do it at a more structural and institutional level. And I think that actually it's going to require a little bit more leadership effort by Provost Guzman, Dr. Shapiro, and myself, listening to all of you, taking the feedback, identifying the areas where we really have a pathway to excellence and impact, and then creating the central administrative structure so that you don't have individual schools negotiating for years fruitlessly over some MOU, but they can't figure out, how to figure out advancement or revenue or something like that. So I appreciate the work that you're doing, Adam, with the provost to try to kind of come up with a little bit more of a templated approach so that we're making it easier to achieve operational excellence and get those things off the ground. And to Dr. Gill's point, can do things quickly. Because if it's going to take us a year to work out tech transfer provisions and revenue sharing, the opportunity is going to be gone before we know it.
We have time for one more question.
Good morning. Thank you and congratulations. I wanted to hear your perspective personally and on behalf of the institution about institutional neutrality. On the one hand, I understand it. On the other hand, there are many global, national events that really, how do we draw the line? Where do we take a stand? How do we do that? How do we make decisions?
Yeah, such a great question. Thank you. So institutional neutrality or restraint is basically the approach that I think most universities nowadays are taking, where they're asking before they comment on a public event, maybe local, maybe it's across the world, that they first consider, is this really directly impacting the university or the mission of higher education? And if it's not, then maybe it's not appropriate for the university leader to comment on it. And I actually agree very strongly with this approach. And the reason I agree so strongly with this approach is because, in a way, it goes back to the very last comment I made, which is that this job is not about me, it's about all of you. And the concern that I have when university leaders start expressing their own personal viewpoints, and you can just ask my wife, I have a lot of them, the problem or the challenge that comes up is that it then makes it seem to other members of the community that if they feel differently, that they shouldn't speak up. And that's antithetical to the kind of academic culture of robust conversation and viewpoint diversity that I think is necessary for and defines a great university. At the same time that that's a restraint that I believe is appropriate to place on myself, the work that we've just been discussing, whether it applies to homelessness or mental health of children with autism, these are all issues that are meaningful because they have a public meaning and impact. And it could be that some of that work in any particular area may be quote unquote controversial. And what I would say to the faculty and the research is institutional restraint is something that applies to me, not to you. Your job is to be bold and daring and tell the truth and speak the truth and research and create the space where we can have conversations that are rational even when we disagree. So that's the reason why I believe so strongly in institutional restraint, again, for myself, but not for the faculty who should be trying to figure out how to engage with a world that really is torn right now and is desperately seeking solutions that I believe USC is uniquely positioned to provide. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And before you leave, I think there's food outside. I'm going to stay around. I hope that I can meet as many of you as I can if I haven't met you. Thank you for coming. Thanks for everything you do.